The answer you really need to think about is why didn't you press charges?
Yeah.
I have every confidence that you will answer that very eloquently.
Yeah.
But it's one you just need to really think about.
Yeah.
And you
whittle it down to a
but speak about the culture.
Yeah.
That, you know, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but if
I don't want to put words in your mouth, but so yesterday a explosive interview aired on Channel 7 on mainstream media, and I know a lot of you might not actually watch mainstream media anymore, but this was in relation to the Brittany Higgins trial, and we had the Bruce Lehrmann, the man accused of raping her, really giving his first public statements on the matter. But as a part of that interview, a whole series of recordings of Brittany Higgins' pre-interview with Lisa Wilkinson was also aired for the first time to the public. And there's some very concerning elements in those recordings that were made available. And I just wanted to kind of react to that because a lot of people were wondering why yesterday I made a tweet or a post in reference to Lisa Wilkinson, calling her, this is what I wrote, Lisa Wilkinson is a disgrace to the profession of journalism, driven entirely by her own agenda with no ethical standards or integrity. This is why independent and citizen journalism is the future. And really what I meant by that was the actions that Lisa Wilkinson, it appears from the recordings listening to this, really puts her ethical integrity into question, and really shows you how despicable sometimes mainstream media can actually be when they're trying to put a story that they want the public to pay attention to. So before I get into my commentary around what I think about this recorded interview, I'm not really going to touch on the rape case and who I think is innocent or guilty. If you want to kind of get an understanding of what Bruce Lehrmann said, you can watch this on Channel 7. It's available for free. It goes for about an hour and a half, I think. And look, at the end of the day, these people, both of them, Brittany Higgins and Bruce, now have had their day in court. As much as that time in court was really dodgy in itself, you can see what happens when we do media by trial, and we have these political witch hunts and trials included in the whole scenario as well. I think neither of them ended up with getting justice, and pretty much everyone got screwed over by the entire system, as well as, you know, Brittany Higgins has received a payout as well, I believe of a few $1 million. Bruce is pursuing his own defamation cases. You know, it's all complicated. You people will say guilty, not guilty. They'll have all sorts of different views. I think what we can do as a public now, because we're not privy to what really happened anymore at all, in particular around the court's decision on this matter, because they just gave in and didn't pursue it. So yeah, all we can do is watch these things and come up with our own conclusions. It's a waste of time, in my opinion, trying to give a definitive answer on these things. I think if you watch this, you'll know that even this gentleman here, Bruce Lehrmann, has come to that same conclusion. Brittany Higgins, I'm not sure the fallout from this interview, how it would impact her, but clearly in terms of the national conversation, there are some ramifications around this matter now. But yeah, moving back onto Lisa, I'm just going to load up this interview from the start. It goes for 4 to 5 minutes, so I've actually cut up bits and pieces from the audio recordings that was available in that particular show, and I'm just going to play that for you now, which I think were bits that were relevant, and we're just going to listen to that, and I'll react to some parts of it.
I'd like to record this if you're okay with that.
Absolutely, go for it.
It's only going to be on my phone. It's not going to be on a 10 server, but it's basically to make sure that I'm not scribbling, typing the whole time. And I've also got backups for the lawyers.
Yeah, because if we're going to proceed, we have to know that we've got every legal loophole covered. Is it to press charges against Bruce?
Ultimately, one day, if I can get enough stuff, absolutely, that'd be great.
I guess what's your, obviously, you know, we're not stupid, we know that this sort of stuff's transactional. What are you getting out of it? What do you want out of it?
No, I'm always about exactly the same thing, the inequality that exists out there, whether it's whether it's white privilege, whether it's male domination, whether it's, criminal activity that is suppressed. I'm a girl from the western suburbs of Sydney. I'll always be motivated by exactly the same thing. People who deserve to be heard, not.
All right, so nothing too controversial there. Just so this is a pre-interview meeting, so it's almost like a journalist meeting her source to figure out what the actual story is about that she wants to tell. So look, nothing groundbreaking there. Obviously, Lisa Wilkinson is going on about her disdain for male domination and white privilege and all these type of things, which are more so her own ideological political leanings or her own view of the world based on being a girl from Western Sydney. Where it gets interesting is this next part.
The answer you really need to think about is why didn't you press charges?
Yeah.
I have every confidence that you will answer that very eloquently.
Yeah.
But it's one you just need to really think about.
Yeah.
And you
whittle it
and you
down
need,
to a
yeah,
a
but
bite.
speak about the culture.
Yeah.
That, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but if you can enunciate the fact that this place is all about suppression of people's natural sense of justice because you see around you the way that this place works.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's where it kind of gets a bit problematic because now the lines are being blurred. She is saying that I don't want to put words in your mouth, but think about these particular points. And there's no way of knowing, actually, to be completely fair to this entire process, there's no way of knowing that if Brittany Higgins herself had these same ideas and same thoughts. But now that we've heard this recording, we know that at least Lisa Wilkinson had a vested interest in getting these type of messages out there from her interview with Brittany. And what this particular segment shows is they cut in between the pre-interview meeting they had and then the interview that she actually did on the project, which aired on national TV as a bombshell, right? This was a political bombshell as much as it was a human interest story because of the circumstances of what this young girl is claiming that's happened to her. This also became a political bombshell in our country around the Liberal Party, around women's rights, around the Me Too movement. There was a lot of ramifications and a lot of things, waves that happened from this tsunami almost of issues that came out of this. So you can see now what she's kind of prepping her for, which I would say is a form of coaching. And we'll see how she then handles this in the actual interview itself.
That will help. Did you feel pressured in any way whatsoever not to proceed with the case, with the police?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there is a strange culture of silence in the parties where it's in everyone's interest to make the problem go away.
It's about fear, it's about intimidation, it's sexist, everything is implied, everything's in secret.
I never let my friends know, I never really let my family know, because it was it's this culture of silence.
Everything seems to operate in dark shadows because the minute you shine a torch on any of it, it's as ugly as sin.
I think the story will clearly have an explosive element of there is just no moral compass.
And it exists within its own set of rules.
Own set of rules,
Situation
yeah.
with the police. It's certainly not just a gender story. It's a Canberra bubble story.
Yeah.
So this is the Canberra bubble.
Yeah, it protects itself. It's its own institution with its own rules.
Like if you were a bloke, you wouldn't be getting this treatment.
No, not at all.
So for a woman to survive in Canberra, she's got to go into survival mode and play like the boys.
Yeah, exactly.
And side with the boys.
Exactly.
And protect the boys.
Yeah.
But you're calling out the culture,
Yeah.
which is not just the Liberal Party. It's a Parliament House culture, which is you're taking steps forward to making it a safer place.
Is Parliament House a safe place for women to work?
Honestly, that's the only reason why I'm even here today.
So yeah, So in that conversation, there's Brittany Higgins' partner at the time, or current partner as well, I think David Shiraz. There's a producer from the project, because this was aired on the project, Lisa Wilkinson and Brittany herself. And you can see this conversation that they're having, which is then when you watch the interview that happened later on, you can tell how these type of ideas may be being put into her head. Now, again, she might already have these ideas in her head. She might already feel this way, but it's very clear that Lisa Wilkinson, at least from her perspective, wants this messaging out there for the public to see. She understands what this story is. Okay, she understands the power of this story and how it can be used to give a certain narrative that she agrees with. Okay, from her viewpoint, that this is what the story the public should hear should be. Now, typically, when we're watching the news and the media, if you're not paying attention, the average person will look at this and be like, this is a very sincere interview. She is just asking her questions. There's been no prepping beforehand, and none of this is actually orchestrated to put forward a particular point of view of, Parliament or Canberra bubbles or the safety of women or anything like this. That is just naturally coming from the experiences of this woman. But again, if you pay close attention, you can see how adamant Lisa Wilkinson is to actually tell it in this particular light and this particular narrative. And people might walk away from this and go, well, that's just how it is. They have to do this because you have to, help these people get this message out. Otherwise, it's not going to be made clear. That's not how it works. When you do an interview, when you talk to someone, you can give them an idea, an understanding of how the interview process will work. You can tell them that these are the topics or areas that we want to explore. All right. You can give a base idea, or you can ask them, are you comfortable to talk about these particular topics? But when you start telling them yourself that this is the way that you should be answering these questions for this particular reason, and then when you watch the interview and you see those same type of answers come back at you, then there's something else going on here. Okay, so Lisa Wilkinson, the project, these people, they have a vested interest in a certain message. And if you've been following this case for the duration of the few years it's been going on, you'll know that there was book deals involved. There were all sorts of messages back and forth about how they should frame this for particular impact. And yeah, it's very muddied waters. But the project, Lisa Wilkinson, this tape, it's very damning of their role that they've played in this. Let's keep playing the video.
Which, for God's sake, it's not just miners and builders who have to worry about workplace safety. Everyone has to.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's not a safe place.
Shouldn't a young woman who just wants to go and do her job feel safe in Parliament House?
Yeah.
We must get that point across, because that whole thing of what an incredibly safe place it is to rape someone, that looks like intent.
Do you have friendly MPs that could fire questions in question time?
We could find
Oh, certainly Albo.
Yeah.
Tanya Plebiscite.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Because we need like I don't know, we get Grace Tame doing the media the next day, or so. You need someone who...
Yeah.
Because you want friendly so that they don't saturate the airtime with Craig Kelly, women just need to suck it up.
Well, that was also a revealing part of the interview, or so that story, that pre-recording, because here we have Lisa Wilkinson going on about her political connections and how she can get this story in front of Albanese, in front of Tanya Plebiscite, who are in the opposition at that point, I believe, how they can get that amplify this story. So what we have here now is Lisa Wilkinson, effectively, in my opinion, from based on what I've saw, it appears to be that she's coaching her for a particular narrative around the culture in Parliament and the key points that she should be pointing out during an interview, the very important points that she should be getting across. At the same time, they are, in this kind of war room type environment, game planning how they're going to get this message out there. And they're going to do it through using people like Albanese and Tanya Plebiscite, getting the message across to them. to then push this forward further. So you can see already there's a very political element happening here. And this is why when you hear these type of recordings, we need to remember that when we're watching things like The Project, when we're watching mainstream reporters like Lisa Wilkinson, all of these things, you have to consider everything they're saying through this type of lens, that they are actually prepping this beforehand to give you a certain narrative or a certain message that you want to believe. And there was a lot of upheaval that occurred because of this story. It might have even changed the course of an election in this country in terms of the impact that it had. And, you know, it might have destroyed lives. It could have changed the outcome of the case for this young woman. All of these things are a direct result of the actions of people like Lisa and her producers at The Project behaving in this manner. Because I think for them, you know, if this was any other story that didn't have a political element in it, that didn't have this Canberra bubble element, that didn't have all of these things, they would not be interested in it, right? The main focus of interest, it appears to me, again, this is my opinion, seems to come from the fact that of where this occurred, this alleged rape occurred. Again, guys, these are all my opinions, and I am still very confident to say that I believe that Lisa Wilkinson is a disgrace to the profession of journalism, driven entirely by her own agenda with no ethical standards or integrity. This is why independent citizen journalism is the future. And again, some people in the comments have said a few funny things to me. They said, Rukshan, you're not a journalist, you're a propagandist. And this guy said, Michael Walker said, you won't even come too close to Lisa's journalistic acumen. And I said, that's a blessing. That's it, guys. If you're enjoying my videos, if you're enjoying this type of commentary, you can follow along at The Real Rukshan on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Odyssey, and Rumble. That's at The Real Rukshan. See you next time.